Welcome to the journey. Once again, my name is Kemley Whiteside. Thank you everybody for tuning in. As we were discussing earlier last week, we talked about disappointments. If you were not able to hear it, please go to my YouTube channel or replay it here on the Blab. Also, in order to follow what we're doing with the journey, I really want to encourage you to purchase a copy of my book. It's called Accepted, Secured, and Significant. The book is $14.99, and if you want an ebook, you can go on my website and also purchase it. It's not including tax, shipping, and handling. So if you actually need to know what we're doing with the journey, it's actually coming from this book. It's called Accepted, Secured, Significant. What we're doing with the journey is accumulating people as much as we can with accountability partners. So if you don't have an accountability partner, email us at kemleywhiteside@gmail.com so that we can help you find an accountability partner, or we can help you and aid you with the process of your journey, because that's what this is all about, is helping you go through the process of your journey. What is it that you're experiencing, dealing with, or going through, and we want to help you. So today's topic is about fear and loneliness. A very hot topic. A topic that for the most part, a lot of us are not able to cope with. We don't know why we have the issues of fear and why we have the issues of loneliness. A lot of times, no one has ever taught us. No one has ever said anything to us. So today we're going to be a little bit more of a participating pack. We're going to do this together. I want you to participate because the journey is about participation. It's about learning. We focus on three elements, which is accountability, networking, and productivity. We want to network with you. We also want you to be productive, whether it's in your business or your ministry. Remember, if you don't have in your personal life things that are becoming clear to you, your business can also fail because you're not actually holding yourself accountable as an individual. So we want to make sure that you are productive. And that's the main reason why I'm holding the journeys on a weekly basis. I want to make sure that you are participating and learning something from this. Again, the topic is fear and loneliness. If you have your books, you can always go back to it whenever you can, but we're actually touching on page 16. And the page 16 has a lot of different things going on with that book, specifically in that page. The only thing is that I highlighted a lot of different things that the book has. We have 14 chapters, but I made sure I narrowed them down because I want to touch on the issues. I don't just want you reading the book and then you read the book and you're not getting anything from that. So I want to make sure that these highlights are very beneficial to you. So in page 16, where it actually says you're secured, we're talking about, I thought that being shown love and affection will replace fear and loneliness. I could be protected by the best security on earth and walk with confidence that I was guarded, but that would not guarantee safety. Being secure comes from being free from and not exposed to danger or harm. To be grounded is to be safe. So fear and loneliness was one of the sub-highlight topics for that particular page of page 16, which talks about you are secured. And one of the reasons I had to break that down is because I had three questions that came to mind about fear and loneliness. How do you define loneliness? Describe what you would consider a secure relationship and what causes fear. So those are the three things we're going to actually talk about today. And I'm going to first discuss, how do you define loneliness? I think loneliness is the act of being alone. But in my eyes, I have come to understand that even having a companion, someone may become lonely. If their heart, mind, body, and soul is not fulfilled, I would consider it an act of loneliness. There are times that being lonely is good, but it's a difference from isolation. Isolation can easily be described as separation, but loneliness is the opposite. So that's important. What exactly do you define loneliness? And if you're out there and you want to jump on the seat, feel free to jump on the seat. I will open the seat for you because we want to make sure that we're engaging, we're talking, we're having an interaction where you can actually give me your input. I can give you my input. And this way we'll have an understanding of why people feel the way they do, because you may feel a certain way and I may feel a different way about loneliness. Me personally, I mean, when I said that that's how I define loneliness, is because that's how I define it. I really think in my eyes that we confuse loneliness with the fact that it's isolation, and it's two different things. They're two different things that we want to make sure that we don't confuse. A lot of people that are lonely sometimes are jumping from relationships one to another. For some reason or the other, they're seeking love, they're seeking affection. Sometimes they're not understanding, why they're feeling lonely. It could be something from their childhood. Maybe their parents didn't give them enough affection. So they go into a relationship with the idea that if they have a companionship, they will actually feel secure, or they will feel no fear that, for whatever reason. We want to tackle those issues because it's very important that you are aware why you're lonely. Why do you need to have somebody in your life? Why do you walk around feeling like you do? You don't have to be in a relationship in order to feel fulfilled, because a lot of people that are in relationships, for the most part, some of them are not even fulfilled. They're also lonely. And loneliness can bring a part of you being by yourself as a single person. Loneliness can affect people that are married. Loneliness can bring a whole lot of different issues with a lot of people. You don't have to feel like you're alone in everything that you do. But if you think finding a relationship is going to define you and it's going to not make you feel lonely, then there is a problem with that, because you shouldn't have to go find love or find something to make you feel fulfilled or not, or loved or anything like that. You have to start with yourself. There's something that had to happen to you at some point in your life that you were lacking. The lack of not having affection, the lack of not having communication. I'm just giving you examples of myself. When I dealt with relationships one after another, I was looking for relationships based on the fact that I needed to fulfill companionship. A lot of times I felt like if I had someone by my side, whether it was sleeping with them or whether it was just going out with them, whether it was just having them in the bed or whatever, it was like, okay, I'm feeling good. But at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't keeping me in a position where I felt like I was actually doing something productive with my life. I was just doing it for the sake of saying, I don't want to be left alone. I don't want to feel like totally abandoned or like no one pays me any attention. So it's very important that we really understand why we do some of the things that we do, and if there's a reason why we're doing it. Loneliness can be a tremendous issue in a marriage just as much as it is when you're single. You can have a companion, you can have somebody with you, but that doesn't mean you are actually complete. It doesn't mean you're not alone. It doesn't mean that you can just deal with it and that's it. And someone is asking, how do you overcome loneliness? One of the things that helped me overcome loneliness is that I had to first find out what was causing me to find something to not make me feel lonely. So if it was a man that I needed to find so that I could actually not feel lonely, then I had to figure out, why was I doing that? Was it for companionship, or was it simply because I wanted to just feel like I was fulfilled at that very moment? So a lot of issues with overcoming loneliness could be because you were lacking something. So you have to now find yourself, figure out within yourself, if you didn't have love, how can you actually fulfill love for yourself? You can do it. You don't need to have somebody else to make you feel like you have to love them in order for you to find love. It's supposed to be birthed in you. It's supposed to start with you. And if you're in a lonely place, I'm telling you right now, trying to find love and you're in a lonely place, it's actually going to be tough, because you have to first know what love is before you actually commit to someone else. Because then at the end of the day, you're not giving that person any kind of affection or love whatsoever. You're also bringing in your loneliness into that relationship. And as I was driving home today, it actually dawned on me how often We see, for example, when we deal with God and Adam and Eve, he gave God gave Adam Eve. Why? Because he needed a companion. It wasn't because Adam felt lonely, because Adam didn't even have a clue that he was really lonely. He was given the companion. So when he was given the companion, it wasn't to fulfill his loneliness. It was to help him become a better person. So a lot of issues that we face with loneliness, we're mixing them up with a lot of companionship issues. So we have to be very, very careful, because if we walk in the image of God, one of the things we have to realize with that, if that God doesn't practice loneliness and fear. So if we are his people and we are technically his kingdom, we're kingdom citizens, that means we have to be very careful that whatever we're doing it in a way that is not affecting what we believe in our faith. Because if we are in his image, that means we don't fear and we don't have loneliness, because that's not what God practices. That's not who God is. So that's the key element of what we're supposed to have as an image. If I'm walking around feeling depressed, lonely, and anxious, and I claim I'm a woman of God, and I claim that the Lord is with me, what I'm actually having to do at this point is show my image as an individual that I am a part of God. So because I'm a part of God, I have to be careful what I'm actually putting out there. I have to be careful how I project myself in my image, because I am in God. So when you are walking lonely and you're not practicing that that's what God is or what God is about, because he's not a lonely God. If you practice understanding that, you'll start to define the things that are creating in you loneliness. A lot of it is companionship issues. A lot of it is because you were lacking something from way back when. It could have been a relationship, or it could have been also in a perspective of having no love or affection from parenthood. The other question that's coming in is, do you think loneliness also comes from not having a strong relationship with God? That's definitely true. If you, like I said earlier, you're in the image of God. So that means that if you are in God, you should always be all about what he does and what he is all about. So if you're defining yourself as a lonely person, that already gives you a flag that I'm not operating in what God has taught me to be, because he never act that way, or never was that way, never is that way. So we have to understand that it comes from a lot of things that we're not doing right. The strong relationship with God, not being able to fast, pray, read the word, be in his word, fulfilling yourself. So if you don't have a strong relationship with him and you're in his image, then you're absolutely lacking a whole lot of things. So when you develop a strong relationship with God, which took me years to do, I'm telling you, it took me years to actually develop that strong relationship with God, so that I will be able to feel completely filled and not have no gaps in between of feeling lonely. Because the moment I started feeling lonely, I was gravitating to being with a male perspective, thinking that was going to be able to equip me, or that was going to fulfill me, because I felt that was the answer. Because at the same token, I didn't have a father. At the same token, I didn't have relationships that were all good and dandy. So some of the failures of your relationships also play a big part of why loneliness comes into play, because you feel like you failed. So you start saying to yourself, I'm not doing something right. So we have to be very careful with how we feel. Our emotions play a big part in relationships with God. And the moment you have a relationship with God that's strong, you will be surprised how you're going to detour from those things that you were trying to fulfill in other things. It could be food. It could be in men. It could be on alcohol. It could be on drugs. It could be anything that you want to gravitate to, just because you're feeling in that loneliness, in that moment of fear, and you don't know which way to turn. So we want to be very careful how we handle it. I really want you guys to participate and ask questions, because there are a lot of people lonely out there. There are also a lot of people in relationships that are married, or people that are involved in a fiance relationship type thing, whoever. You are facing some issues, and a lot of times you don't understand why. So we're trying to help you. I'm trying to give you the answer of what you need to possibly do to make it better, because at some point you're going to have to come to reality. and understand that your loneliness is not always because you don't have love or affection. Sometimes that could be the factor, but it's not always the case. So the other thing we want to make sure is that you don't face the principle of saying, I need to have someone in order to just be okay. You have to be careful what you're connecting with, whether it's a relationship or whether it's a friendship, because a lot of times we get connected with people just for the simple fact that we're feeling a certain kind of way emotionally. And then we vent out so much frustration. We tell people all our business. Then they go out there and tell your business to somebody else. So when you're in a lonely place, keep in mind that a lot of things are taking place. You're now fulfilling a lot of things that you shouldn't be doing. You're gravitating to things you shouldn't be even gravitating to. So you want to be very careful that everything that you do is not because of that emotional stage. You have to be careful of how you handle it. You have to be careful of how you deal with it. And you want to make sure that if you're feeling that way, that you seek the word of God to give you some answers, that you find scriptures that would help you, or you find, once again, an accountable partner, because you need to talk to someone in that case. Do you think fear makes you lonely? Well, one of the things that I thought caused fear is I believe that what causes fear in my life is the thought of being exposed to danger. Anyone who will want to harm my thought process, my intellect in my eye, is someone who I will fear. Someone who will demean me, ridicule me, and make me feel not safe is someone I will think will be causing me fear. That was my definition of what caused me the fear. That a lot of times, if it's someone in my life who is causing me fears because they're exposing me to something dangerous, and it could be anything. So fear comes from that place where you're emotionally lonely, but at the same time, you're taking that loneliness and you're gravitating to the wrong things. So that's when fear comes in, because if I'm feeling lonely right now and I want to gravitate to something that's not even of God, I'm automatically in fear going to it because I already know it's wrong. So you're exposing yourself to something that's dangerous or something that could become dangerous, and you don't even know it. So fear in my eyes is actually something of a thought process that could be exposed as dangerous. It's something that could be something that someone can do to me that I automatically feel fear. Because in relationships, oftentimes even we feel the fear with significant others. And a lot of it is because if they even lie to you once, every time they lie, every time they say something to you, you're already thinking they're lying to you. So you're in fear of each time that you're asking questions. You're in fear that each time you're saying something, they're coming with a lie. So you already created, it's already a gap there in the atmosphere of fear, because now you don't want to know what the answer is. Now you're wondering, okay, is the answer going to be that? I don't want to hear that. So that person exposed you. Hear me, that person exposed you to something that you did not want to really hear or accept. So that is what fear comes into place in relationships and friendships. You have to be very careful that what you're doing is not exposing you to something or someone that will automatically make you feel like you're supposed to be in this kind of fear. Like, okay, if I ask this question, are they going to tell me the truth, or are they going to lie to me? I don't know what to believe. You're already in that inner place of fear. So loneliness comes into that place as well. So they go hand in hand, and we have to battle it, knowing the relationship we should have with God even stronger, even better, what the word is telling you to do, how you should handle it, how your thought process should be exposed to things that are positive oriented and just block the negativity. It's a lot of that involved as well. There's another question coming in. Do you think that not having something that is God-centered to focus on can perpetuate loneliness? That's absolutely correct. I really believe that a lot of times, if you don't know God, for example, you are in his image. So if you portray loneliness and fear, and someone who doesn't know the Lord is gravitating to you, and you already show them loneliness and fear in your life, that's the God that you serve. That's the God they think they should be serving. So you're already depositing something that's not God-centered. When God is in your life, your image, your life, your everyday walk should be all about him and what he is all about. So you're exposing things that are God-centered. Anything that you do supposed to be God-oriented. If you're doing things, or even in crowds of people, and these people are doing things that is not even of God, that's already gravitating into a motion of feeling like, wow, I'm fearing this because it's wrong. But at the same token, you have to be careful what you're actually seeing as God-centered. Everybody that's saved doesn't necessarily mean they're walking in God. They might have backslid at some point in their life, but it's not like you're going to give them your back. But you also have to be careful that when you are with those kind of people, or you're dealing with these type of people, that you're not exposing yourself to danger, because now you open your heart, your mind, and your thought process to want to gravitate to the things they're doing, which is not even of God. So keep in mind that all these questions are important. If you want to jump on the seat, I will really appreciate it, so that this way you can have a better interaction and you can actually understand that what God wants us all to do is not, the journey is not just biblical, but it's practical. It's allowing us to help ourselves. It's allowing us to do things in a better light and change some of our things that we're doing, because I'm really in a position where I really believe people in general have to be able to understand that their walk with God is not just going to church every Sunday. It should be a lifestyle. It should be every day. And a lot of people go to church in fear because they're tired of pastors and apostles and different prophets just exposing them to a lot of things that sometimes need to be done in private. To be very honest with you, there's certain things that should be handled in private, things that people don't want to be exposed to in the light, because now you have opened the wound that was already healing. But when you expose people in these kind of lights, and hear me out, if you're pastors, preachers out there, be very careful how you're exposing things that you're prophesying to people, because there are a lot of people hurt. There are a lot of people not healed. There are a lot of people walking out there in a state of mind that will make them become fearful of even coming to church and even talking to a pastor. So if you're a pastor or a preacher, or somebody out there who's also on the pulpit preaching about the person that came to you to actually give you their mind and their thoughts process and what they're going through, and their private life is now being exposed to the world, you have to be careful about that, because that person is struggling with a serious issue, and that issue needs to be resolved. It shouldn't have to be a topic of conversation for the public, or a sermon for the lack of words, literally. You don't need to create that atmosphere. You should focus on how you can help it. That's why the journey does what we do. We don't focus just on giving you a scripture, a lecture, or trying to tackle you and handle you. We want to make sure that you're actually, the issues you're dealing with are becoming relevant to us, because I don't want you to feel like your life is just about coming in, walking out, and you're not getting anything to apply in your life. It is very important that you apply it. And these kind of habits that a lot of pastors and preachers have on the pulpit is wrong. And if you don't know it's wrong, I'm letting you know biblically it is wrong. There's no such thing as having to handle your business in a public matter just because they want to call it correction. It's a limit and a line for all that. So let's be very careful about that as well. Now, the other thing that we have, another question is, describe what you will consider a secure relationship. In my eyes, let me tell you what I think. A secure relationship in my eyes is when I feel comfort in my relationship. Someone who I can rely on, someone I can depend and count on. When we do get involved with relationships, we oftentimes find that we all have a baggage. Very true. Everybody's coming with a baggage. Everybody's coming with a past. Everybody's coming with something. But if you don't open up to that issue and you don't talk about the issue, then that person is going to be a walking time bomb. And trust me when I tell you, it's not a safety thing to do. You want to feel safe in a relationship in a way that whenever you feel whatever you feel, if it's fear, if it's loneliness, if someone is talking to you, for example, loud, and they raise their voice very loud, and you don't like it in your relationship, or you don't like it with the people around you, whether it's at your job, your boss, whoever, you need to address that. Because in the past, you might have had a mom or a dad or uncle or aunt or somebody that was loud and you didn't like it. So you went into a little cubby hole and you locked yourself in a closet, and you were in fear because of the person lifting their voice and speaking loud and yelling and talking to you in a tone that you didn't like. When you face that fear, you have to literally say it. The person doesn't know that their voice is getting loud and that they're actually experiencing that you're experiencing a problem. They don't have a clue. So you have to say what it is that bothers you. You have to say what it is that you're in fear. You cannot walk around in fear of things that bother you. You have to express them. You have to voice them. You have to let it become something that you make it a habit of letting the person know it bothers you. Because then you go back into that state of loneliness, and you want to now sit there and you're like in a time bomb going, okay, I don't want to say anything because if I say this, they may get offended or they may yell at me again. But if you never addressed it, they wouldn't know. It's very important that we understand things that are really in our hearts, but that we need to let people know it, because the only way we're going to get away from being in fear, the only way we'll get away from being in loneliness is addressing them. So a lot of these issues that we have faced, what do you consider a secure relationship? I don't know what you will consider a secure relationship. Some people find security with someone who has a great career, great job. And because they don't have it, they may feel like being in that relationship is safe and it's okay and it's secure for them. But the person is treating them like crap. But they will rather stay in the relationship because they don't have nowhere to go. They fear being by themselves, starting all over again. And a lot of relationships go through that. The bottom line is, the answer is that if you want to get yourself on your feet, that you need to do something about it. But why would you walk in fear knowing that there's a solution? So there are solutions to things. It's just that we're not taking the stand. We're in fear of starting all over again. We're in fear of wondering if we can actually make it. And it's not the thing that we want to do. We want to make sure that everything that we have an issue with, that we address them, we tackle them, we talk about it, and we don't face the fear anymore. And I'll tell you a good example. I remember being in a relationship where I was literally in fear of even voicing anything. At some point, I just stopped saying anything that was bothering me. And the only reason why I started doing that is because I knew that the person wasn't listening. They weren't hearing me out. And at some point, I knew that the solution had to be a way out. When you become in a way that you're constantly saying something and voicing something, and the person is not listening, hear me very well. You have to find a solution to that problem. There's no reason why you got to hammer somebody down and try to tell them often, over and over again, that something is really bugging you out. There's no need for that. If the person is not technically listening to you, then maybe you need counseling separately, or you need to do counseling together. But there are issues that need to be addressed, and you can't walk in fear because of somebody else not listening to you. You already deposited the problem, but you're not getting the response that you need so that you can get better. So that means you haven't been the problem. The problem is the other party or the other person at this point. So stop walking around carrying baggages and things that you don't need to, because at the end of the day, you're going to walk with that fear. You're going to continue to feel lonely, because that's what loneliness comes into place as well. Trying to find a companion just to be able to say, I have one, just to say, I don't want to start all over again, or just to say, you know what, I don't know if I need to do this anymore. I want to be in it. It's so much confusion that shouldn't never been created. And confusion is not of God. Let us be mindful that everything that you do, everything that you say, how often you do it, how often you say it, plays a big part in your everyday life. It means a lot for people to want to gravitate to you if you're in his image, if you're in God's image. If I'm walking, I remember being depressed and having an anxiety disorder. And I really didn't know that it was that severe. But I was sinking myself deeper and deeper and deeper, because now I was afraid to actually claim that I had an anxiety and depression problem. I was afraid for people to look at me a certain kind of way, look at me funny. If I went to the doctor's office for a therapist and all this stuff, people will think I was crazy. So a lot of times we avoid certain things that we should do to clean out and to not mess with our minds and to become completely healed. But because we're so focused on what other people say or how they will think or how they will view things, we don't do it. Going to a therapist is not crazy, and stop having religious people tell you that. I hear that often when people call me, I don't want to go to a place because everybody think I'll be crazy. If you keep saying that to yourself, then you will become one. So when you are feeling certain kind of emotional things in your life, seek help. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's definitely nothing crazy about it. Everybody that has that theology the theory and they think it's theology. It's not theology. It's not even biblical for people to be thinking that that's okay to tell people that you shouldn't go see somebody. But because we've been so caught up in people saying things to us over and over again, we believe it, we take it in, and we just go like blank and we just get stuck. I don't want you being stuck. I need you to release yourself. Be happy. Do not hold baggages and stuff that other people put you through when you don't need to. So your fear, sometimes it's not because you are in fear of yourself. It's because you're in fear of someone else telling you something that's going to be very painful to you. So now you're not trying to exercise freedom. You don't want to be free. You need to stop holding on to certain things that are causing you a lot of fear. A lot of people are walking like that. The church half the time is not handling it. Some people are walking just thinking that that's normal. That is not normal. It's not normal because that's not what God created in you. He wants you to succeed in everything that you do, and he wants you to voice out whatever it is that you are feeling for. So if you are in a relationship, once again, let's go back to that companionship issue. Stop thinking that being in a companionship situation is what's making you feel okay. Because at the end of the day, you're still lonely. And the loneliness comes from a lot of bitter issues. Sometimes it comes from a lot of things that you're not facing from childhood or even from church or even from friends. Whenever you have that feeling, you need to make sure that you talk about it, you voice it out and release it. You can't carry on some of these things that we do often because you think it's okay. Nobody's going to care. Some people do care. And the ones who will care will help you with it. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to also move forward with it. That's why the journey is important, because we want accountability partners to make sure that they face each other's situations and heal each other at the same time. You can't walk around constantly feeling that you don't have any help when you do have the help. So our session today is really important. I want you to ask questions and I want you to jump in the seat if you need to, because it's very important that you understand what fear and loneliness is all about. I have some scriptures I will have you also get and write down. Every time you come to the journey every Monday, I want you to bring a pad and a pen. Please come with that, because you need to take notes and gravitate from this and take it with you. I'm being very upfront with you. I have no problems being very transparent. My life is very transparent. Why? Because I believe that we need to be able to tackle the issues, resolve those problems, and not walk around feeling like we have to keep hiding it for the rest of our life. We need to release it. I think there's another question. How do we choose our accountability partners? Well, one of the things we can do is emails. If you need an accountability partner, I want you to email me your concern and what is it that you're facing so that we can actually help you find an accountability partner. One of the things that I don't want you to do is to think that your spouse is your accountability partner, or your fiance or whoever you have in your life. Most of the time, it's not helpful that we have someone that knows us to be an accountable partner, because they're not helping you. They're actually hindering you. They don't mean it, and they don't even know it. But a lot of times, you want a stranger or someone that doesn't know much about you to really be able to tell you the truth. A lot of times the people that you know, they'll tell you the truth in a passive way. They'll try to tell you something nicely and kind, and then you don't really face yourself and the problem and the issue. So when people tell you about accountability, Don't go with people that are constantly telling you that having an accountable partner is supposed to be someone that you know. That's not helpful. I'll rather find a total stranger that I can actually be held accountable for things that I'm doing with my business or anything that I'm doing with events or anything like that, because I want to make sure that what I'm doing is actually going to be good and not just because I'm doing it for the sake of saying I'm doing it. I want somebody to be honest with me. And if you really want to progress and succeed, you must be able to find someone that's going to be very open-minded and honest with you. There's no such thing as having to proceed with things in your life and constantly have someone pacify you and give you a little bottle like you're a baby. That doesn't work. So you have to make sure that if you need an accountability partner, you email me at KemleyWhiteside@gmail.com. We will work with you so that you can find an accountable partner, someone totally outside of the scope of where you even know. And you may know the person, but this is why we do the journey, because we can assign you accountable partners within the journey. There's so many people that have businesses here and so many people that have so many different networks, and you may be able to connect with that person so that that way you can have an accountable partner to help you with your business, to help you with your with anything you do, your ministry. So it's important that you really join us so that we can help you tackle the issues that you're facing. And the networking is very productive because now you're going to have someone that's going to hold you accountable. The way the accountability partner works, it's a 90-day process. So if you're facing an issue with your business and we give you a 90-day turnaround, which means that that accountable partner has to stick with you for those 90 days to make sure that you're facing the problem and making it a solution somehow at the 90-day process. We cannot go on year after year, day after day, week after week, not resolving things that we need to. I think it's counterproductive. I mean, you must do things in a way that's going to help you succeed. And the best way to do it is having an accountable partner. So let's go back into understanding why we need it. This journey platform is not just for you to listen to me, hear me out. We talked about fear and loneliness. And if you have faced issues like this, if you want to talk about it, jump on the seat. We're here. I'm here to listen to you. I don't want to do all the talking. I think it's important that you tell me what's going on. Why is it that you may know somebody that's feeling fear, maybe in their own relationship? They may not want to get out of it because they don't know how. If it's an abusive relationship, a lot of this is happening, people. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. We're not telling you leave your relationship. We're not telling you to walk out. We're telling you we need to help you, that we need to face it, that we need to make sure that we have a situation here that will help us to be better people. If you're running a business and you're still in fear and you're still in loneliness, at some point in your life, your business is not going to succeed. Because you have to let go of a lot of things in order to be successful with your everyday things that you do. That's why people are walking hurt. That's why people are walking failing, because they feel as though their life is just puzzling. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know why. Well, there's a reason why. Hi, Ebony. How are you?
Hey,
Well, we have to jump on.
Finally got on.
Well, praise God, girl.
I've been trying for the last 30 minutes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. I think it's such a sensitive topic. Don't you think so? I mean, I don't think people like to talk about fear and loneliness. I think some people walk away from it or run away from it because they really don't want to face the issues. And I feel as though I've been there. I know what it felt like to be in that place. And I really hate to see people in that same boat. I think they need to talk about it, vent it out. And if they don't want to seek professional help, at least they have a forum and a platform here to do it. But I don't know. What do you think?
I think loneliness is a silent killer. It leads to depression. It leads to when you're feeling alone and you feel like nobody's there for you. You start to think, okay, well, I'm here. What's my purpose? Nobody wants me. Nobody wants me around, and I don't have nobody to talk to. Then it really starts to branch out to other issues, deep depression. And I know that for me, growing up, it was so many moments in my life I felt long periods of loneliness and depression because, I was switching to different schools. I was a new kid. I was trying to fit in. And it seems like every time I got comfortable with a group of people, I had to leave and I had to go and kind of adjust to a new environment and had to do the same thing. It was just like a process. I was never stable. And because of that, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. I never felt like I was included with anything, and I started to feel alone. And I really started to question God, like, God, why am I going through this? God, you see me going through this, but I'm talking to you, but you're not answering. It's like I'm going through this. I'm reading the Bible. I'm trying to live by your word, but I just feel like I'm alone. And I felt so alone. I feel like God left me, God forsaken me. And so when you're in that process, and if you're a lot of people don't realize it.
Yeah.
A lot of people just feel like this is how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to feel depressed and down all the time, and you're not. And if you don't admit that you have a problem, and if you don't admit to the issue or how you're feeling, like you said, if you don't talk about it, if you don't try to reach out or try to get help, you're gonna find yourself sinking in a deep, deep depression and start make you think all crazy thoughts. So that's why I say loneliness is a silent killer, because if you don't address it, it can lead to other things. Definitely.
So true, Ebony. And I agree with you. I think I was dying inside, literally. But it was slowly. It was like a silent killer, but like you said, a slow process of a killer, because you begin to see yourself not knowing who to turn to. And even though you have God and you're saying, I can pray to God, I can go to God, and God isn't really hearing you as we think. In all reality, we weren't looking for physical human help. And yes, God is there with us all the time, but people need to see themselves seeking the assistance of somebody else also, because at the same token, you need to address the issue physically with somebody. So yeah, like you said, a lot of times I felt left out. I mean, I've been left out of a lot of things that sometimes I've been wondering if it's me.
Right.
And of course, you go into that place where you're like, well, I guess I'm going to be in my lonely little place. I'm going to sit in my lonely little corner. And I guess that's what it's going to be. But then I had to realize that my husband taught me this. When people exclude you, you count it a blessing, because a lot of times it's not for you. Right. And sometimes everybody can't understand that. So I had to develop it and grow into it and understand that everything is not for you. So when people exclude you, or people don't really address things with you and they don't care about you, and you feel like, well, I guess I have nobody, a lot of times it's not because of you're the problem. Sometimes they're facing their own demons. Right. And half the time they're facing their own demons. They don't even know how to even deal with it. So they take it out on other people, and you don't even know is the demon going on in there or something going on with them. You just automatically think, oh, I did something wrong. And we walk thinking things that we do are wrong. And that's why sometimes if people do things wrong to somebody, that's what we were talking about last week with disappointment. Tell the person they disappointed you. Do something about it. Don't just sit there and have the person walk around sad, depressed, like you said, and be popping a bunch of pills. The doctor's going to give you whatever they can give you just for you to be calm or okay. And at the end of the day, you're still walking around like that. So I do agree. I think, a lot of time it's a silent killer. Most people don't know it is. Some people are walking around, and even in their marriages like that, in relationships, they're just like, so grounded into, I don't want to say anything. And they're in fear. Now, what makes me wonder is what makes people really be in that kind of fear, even in their own relationship. That's one of the things I had to figure it out for myself. What makes somebody be in fear with their own relationship, especially someone who they love or someone who loves them? I can't digest that.
Well, because you're in people get in a relationship or get married for the wrong reasons. I see it. I see with my own family. Some of my family members. And the thing is too, and I mean, this is a different topic. A lot of times we marry the wrong person. We're in a relationship with the wrong person. And we think we love them, but we're not in love with them. We talk about marriage, and a lot of times, like you said, we're in a relationship because we just want to feel wanted. We want to feel accepted. We don't want to feel alone. And so a lot of times, if you're fearful in a marriage, that means something is a disconnect between you and that person. Because I believe that, when God truly has someone for you, there's no disconnect. I should know when something's wrong with you. I should know what something. So I should know if you're quiet all the time, something's going wrong. But if you're fearful and you're married, that's an issue. That's I think a sacred relationship where you should be vulnerable, where you should be able to talk about your feelings. So I think a lot of times people, they fear, they're in relationships and they're fearful because they start a relationship the wrong way. They start a relationship with all the wrong intentions and all the wrong reasons. If you're just trying to be lonely, you better get that Bible, go to Bible class, join some networking groups, go to meetup.com, and you can find a whole bunch of people that you can relate to. Please stop. The word is crazy, okay? You can't jump into relationships now. Okay, people are a little bit off. They're not all together like they used to be. So you can't jump into relationships because you want somebody. That's just not a reason to date someone or to marry someone. So we're fearful because we create our own fear. Honestly, we get into situations that we know we're supposed to get in, and so now we're in the situation we don't know what to do. Now we're fearful. Stop creating your own fear. Stop doing that. A lot of times we cause situations for ourselves. Now we're afraid because we don't know how to get out the situation, or we don't know even how we got here. So a lot of times it's not because, and I hate when people say, well, God, why you allow this? God, why you did this to me? No. Stop putting God into the equation. Stop blaming God because of what you want to do. That's what you want to do. God had nothing to do with mess. God don't bless mess. That's all you. And it's all you're doing. So we're fearful in relationships. Why? Because we put our own selves in the relationships. And that's why and if you're feeling lonely in a relationship, please get out, because that's not a good sign whatsoever.
It's not. It's true. It's not a good sign. And you know what I think too? It actually creates more of a problem down the road. You start to identify yourself as someone that needs to be with that person just for the sake of saying you're with them. And you got yourself there. I mean, you saw the signs coming. A lot of signs people have in advance, but for some reason they refuse to really understand that that's a sign. They want to make in their mind believe that, oh no, that was just that. It's okay. So when you start seeing signs with people, don't brush it off, because we're living in times where people are really dealing with serious issues. And when you begin to brush them off, or you start to actually block it, when it gets bigger, then you can't even manage it or control it. And at the end of the day, that could cause you more of a breakdown than what you even experienced. Because if you thought you were depressed then, you certainly going to be even more depressed later. So we have to be careful how we are addressing issues. And if we see the issues, don't sleep on it. Don't think, oh, the person is just, that's one time. I mean, does it take that many times for somebody to really show you that really they have a situation going on? I mean, I don't think God created us to be that naive, to be honest. I mean, we all know that there's some things that people know they see in advance, and they just sit back and go like, well, nah, he just did it at one time. It's okay. And then you have a routine. And that routine develops into something more, and you're still brushing it off. I wonder if we actually like being in that predicament. That's the thing that I'm really starting to see. I wonder if we really like being in a dramatic state of environment where everything is drama, everything is, yes, I want to be stuck with this person because I need this person, and yet you're still not happy or not content, and you're blaming everybody around you. That's another thing. Stop letting other people, you blame other people for stuff you're going through, but remember that people from the outside, most of the time, that's not always because they're trying to be nosy or try to be in your business. I'm telling you, realness. You have got to understand that when people see certain things and they tell you, it's because they see something you can't see.
Right.
And it's not because they're trying to be nosy. A lot of people don't want to hear that, but it's the truth. Sometimes I see things that I'm like, wow, if I'm telling you what I see, is because that's what I see, because I'm an outsider. An outsider will always tell you truth. Honest to God, they will. They will tell you truth because they don't really know the back end of the story. They're only telling you what they see. And because they're telling you what they see, they're automatically addressing it because that's what they see. So when you're in a situation like that, don't get mad when people come to you and say, I don't think that was fair or right with that person. You shouldn't be upset. They don't know your situation like that. Unless the person is really into your business, you will know if the person is really into your business. But when outsiders do come in and they try to talk to you about certain situations, sometimes it's good to give that person the benefit. Try to digest what they said, listen to it carefully, go back and retract from what they said and say, you know what, that person did make sense, because they're trying to help you. They're trying to give you a solution. You're just so blind, you can't even see it. And I mean, I was there before. I was blind, very blind at some point. And it got to the point where the blindfolds, they came off, because I started seeing clearly a lot of things that I didn't even know I was dealing with. But I'm glad that I'm free. I'm glad that I'm healed. I'm glad that my release is over. Like, I don't have to focus anymore on being fear and being in loneliness. Despite of what I've been through, I thank God that I was able to battle it, because I also listened to a lot of people. Even though I didn't like what they had to tell me, sometimes I was very upset at them, wouldn't speak to them for a couple of days or weeks. But I was happy to see that, oh, wow, they meant well. So you can tell the difference. So some people need to know the difference and know that for sure, some people are nosy. Some people want to be in your business. But then you have other people who really do care. They really mean well, and they want to see you prosper. If you don't want to see yourself prosper, that's a problem. Because that means you can't love somebody else more than yourself. And you can't even understand why the person treats you the way they treat you. They treat you like that because you've allowed them to, because you don't even know how to treat yourself right. So I think it's a good point you were saying, Ebony. I think people today should be able to be a little more cautious on how to understand fear and loneliness.
Yeah.
I have someone else that says, great topic tonight. We must become aware that the evil one uses loneliness to bring about self-destruction and subsequent destruction of those around us. We must genuinely seek God to deliver us. Absolutely true. I couldn't agree more. I think the fact that we know that everybody's not saved, number one, we don't expect everybody that comes on this platform to understand the whole thing about God and all that. So I'm not going to assume you know about God. What I want you to know is get to know about God. If you don't know him, try to get to know him, because you'll become aware of a lot of issues that you're facing, why you face them. And then you can have a better relationship slowly that will help you with these issues, because you can't battle them by yourself. I tell you, you can't. It's impossible to want to think that you're Superwoman, Wonder Man, and all this other stuff, Superman, and you think you can really do it. You can't. I couldn't do it by myself. So I know that the evil one, as far as Satan, the devil, the enemy, he wants to destroy, he wants to kill, he wants to put you in a place where you no longer have control of your mind. Because the first thing he tackles is your mind. The first thing that he's looking for is to mess your mind up. So a lot of times, if you're not together, don't think it's just because you don't want to be together. Sometimes it's not really you. Sometimes it's the enemy, that spirit that's coming and attacking and dealing with you. And because you're not strong and having that strong relationship with God, most of the time you become completely subjected to feeling like, wow, the enemy's playing with me. But it's a spirit. See, I told someone in the past, and this is very important. When people are doing stuff that you're not in agreement with, and there's a struggle going on there, don't beat the person up. Don't tackle the person, attack the person, and go after them. Understand it's a spirit that's going on with them, and they need help, and they need help in a different language, not in the help of you nagging them, tackling them, beating them up, telling them they're this, telling them they're that, because you've created the fear and of having someone to speak to. They don't know who they want to speak to. So you have to be very careful about that. Welcome, Christopher. How are you? And we have to be very aware that, God doesn't want us to be in fear. He doesn't even expect us to be that way. We have allowed it a lot of times. So we have to be very careful that our mind is something that plays a trick on us. So when you have a significant other or a friend or somebody who literally, becomes a certain kind of way, be very careful how you handle that person, because now you're handling a situation that can affect the person emotionally. They go back into that depression, they go back into that anxiety. So you have to be careful that you have to attack the spirit that's going on with them. Whether it's the fear, loneliness, anxiety, depression issue, attack that spirit. Go after that, not after the person. Hi, Christopher. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you. How are you doing?
Good, good. Nice seeing you. Welcome, welcome. Tonight's topic is fear and loneliness. And we were really tackling some issues with how to deal with people and their fears and their loneliness. Can you actually define loneliness? Do you have any idea what loneliness will mean for you? Or maybe someone that you know is going through something. Can you share something with us?
Yeah, I think loneliness means when you are dealing with certain issues or problems and there's no one there to help you go through those problems, nowhere to reach out, no outlets to go to. That's what I think loneliness is. But I have a question for you about perception. I don't know if you can answer my question, but as far as I've been trying to study this idea of perception and how does our perception create our reality, and what can we do to perceive ourselves in a certain way that will empower us to not fear or feel lonely?
Well, one thing I had spoken about earlier is about the image that we are in God. For example, if we know God is great in all these different things, that's what we perceive, that we should be like him because he created us like us, right? We are created in his image. So a lot of times when we are walking in that fear, loneliness, or depression, that's automatically saying that's not even of God, especially how we're going to perceive people that don't know about God. So we have to learn what our image is first. What are we walking in first? So if we're walking in loneliness, depression, or even not certain about who we automatically take our perception. People are going to take us as that who we are is that. So if we want to act like we're great people, we want to do great things, we want to do wonderful things, we have to have that authority and that position to be that way because we are in his image. So everything we do has to come from the image of what God created us to be. So for those people who don't know God, most of the time, they will look at you for whatever you represent and what your image is all about. They're perceiving you as someone who's depressed. They're perceiving you as someone who's lonely. They're perceiving you as someone who's just out of their mind, out of sight. And because you perceived that, you gave that, you told your image all together from head to toe, even the way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you talk. That person is perceiving you as that because you carry yourself that way. And that's not how God created you to be. So if we claim we're in God, if we claim we are his children, then we're supposed to mimic everything about him. So that means no depression, no anxiety, no sadness, no loneliness. But people are going to perceive whatever it is you give them. If I walk in a room looking a hot mess, people don't know what I'm going through. They're automatically going to think I really look a hot mess because that's what I perceive to be. I told them that's who I am because I walked in there feeling no confidence whatsoever. So everything we do, even with businesses, even with ministry, relationships, whatever you do, remember that what you do is not just for the moment. People are going to look at you. People are going to walk in so many different ways. Social media is so wide open that a lot of people are seeing everything that you're doing. So I hope I answered your question, but perception to me, that's what it means. Whatever your image is, you have to be careful what that is because people perceive you as who you are and what you are about.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Christopher. I think it's important we acknowledge the issues, we tackle them, and we understand them because a lot of times we don't want to face issues because we're in fear. Once again, we feel like we don't want to deal with the truth. And the truth can only set you free. The truth can always help you. The truth can always make you become a better person. And you want to hear it because it's what God wants you to be about. You don't want to walk around constantly feeling intimidated by the things that you're surrounded with in society. Because most of the time, society is going to put you in a place where you are going to be bound by whatever they think or say. So let's keep in mind that today's topic was fear and loneliness. I really appreciate every single one of you who came out and supported the journey. Remember to go to my YouTube channel. Also remember to go to the replay so that you can hear and listen to what was going on tonight. But most importantly, send us your emails, your comments, KemleyWhiteside@gmail.com. Let us know if I'm able to help you in any kind of way, because what I want you to do is that your journey is a journey that is going to repeat itself with somebody else in your generations to come. So you want to make sure that as of now, you tackle issues, you deal with them, because then you're transferring all of that to your next generation. So as we move forward with the journey, we want to make sure that we're dealing with real issues, real talk, and real solutions. Until next time, God bless each and every one of you. I want to give you Genesis 2:18. Psalms 25:16 and Deuteronomy 6:13. It talks about fear. It also talks about loneliness. Genesis 2:18, Psalms 25:16, and Deuteronomy 6:13. If you get a chance, you go to those scriptures, intertwined with it, digest it, keep it going, and we will see you next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The topic next week should be about safety, and it's really going to be very good, because we're also going to deal with domestic violence issues. So if you know someone who needs to know about the journey, spread the word. See you next time. And please make sure that you stay connected on Facebook, Instagram, or any other social avenues. I'm on there. Connect with me if you can, so that you can learn more about and hear more about the journey. If you need an accountability partner, email me at KemleyWhiteside@gmail.com. Good night and have a blessed day.